Estate, hosted by me, Thomas F Chappell Jr., the host of the Black Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club, which is every third Wednesday of the month on Zoom at this point, starting from West Coast at 6 p.m. to 9, East Coast is 9 to midnight. Here with my special guest, Kenneth, and we was in conversation to talking about how do people really know what their niche is and whatnot. And like I said, you and I have had several different conversations and whatnot. And what I come to find out, especially from a person like me, is that, you know, we're not privy to a lot of information that is out there, you know, self-help and different things like that. So when it comes to wanting to do a business, structure a business, make it successful, we're not sure that we have the right criteria to follow through. You know, now we know that, you know, the government gives you about 3 years to do a business and screw it up. And, you know, the first year you don't really have nothing to compare it to. Second year, you know whether or not you're going to do well in your third year. Third year, you decide whether or not you're going to continue the business or just belly it up and things like that. So without knowing some of the things that you knew, you know what I'm saying? You thinking that the things that you know now would have helped you become successful then, or you think that it wouldn't have mattered?
This is a difficult question because my background's a little bit different. I came from a family where my father started his business in 1989,
Okay.
which is not much longer than before I was born. I was born in 86. And he's been very successful as a businessman. A number of businesses across the state of Georgia, very successful, had over 200 plus employees in 1994. And I worked with him a lot as far as, just helping out the business when he, came moved like local to Winder, and I actually helped him locally at the business. So when I started a business, I was like, I'm going to be like my father. Well, I wasn't quite like my father. And what I realized, my strengths and his strengths were just completely different. Um, and that's a big thing that a lot of people have to understand is what may work for somebody else might not quite work for you. So what you kind of really have to figure out is, okay, where's my parallel? What's my role in this? And that's different for me. Like my dad, he doesn't have to he doesn't have to have like mentors and stuff like that. He just sometimes just he gets into it and then just, figures it out along the way. I can't do that because I won't ever figure it out. I have to be able to reach out to people who have done it before, ask questions. Okay, see, okay, this is how you've done it, and then see, okay, that method works for me, but I'm gonna, I'm gonna eventually find what method works for me, and eventually I'm gonna, just like you shared the wealth with me, I'm gonna share the wealth with the next person. So everyone has a different sh- purpose into getting there, and so for me, I don't necessarily know if what I knew now help would have helped me back then, because I think I kind of knew it back then. It's just that I figured out what worked for me now that I didn't quite know back then.
Well, the way I look at it is the fact is that there's different seasons, and the generations in those seasons were totally different than the generations of my season and seasons behind me and whatnot. And now that we live in a tech world, you know what I'm saying? Everything is being done by AI. AI then took over everything. You know, back then, internet wasn't even a part of our world. You know, less known. Cell phones, they weren't even part of our world. Computers, you know, in my generation was just getting started, and you didn't have a home computer. It was corporations that had these computers and whatnot. And then as time went on, those couldn't afford them got computers, and those couldn't. They had to go to the library, things like that. So the way I see it now, everything evolves. And the one thing I've learned about when it comes to doing a business is that you're finding someone that's older than you and smarter than you because they've been there, they've done it, they wore that t-shirt. Now, a lot of stuff that they did back then, it's not going to fit in the model of today, but you can utilize different components and then strengthen it with what's going on today in order to make it strive. And that's one of the biggest things that I do when I teach is that you got to understand you got to bridge the gap between the old and the new, because without the old, you can't have the new. It's just like saying old school, new school. You gotta respect and you gotta love what came before you to where you're going after the fact. And that's where a lot of people differ because they don't respect the old. They, oh, that's old, they don't work anymore. No, it still works. Now you got to tweak it and make it a little bit better than what was going on, because what your father did and what people that I've seen coming up, everybody just say, okay, let's go out and do it. And then they had help. Today we don't act, we tend not to ask for help. Oh, we got it, we know it, and because we swear up and down we're more educated, and that's one of the biggest things. Education, yeah, education's a good thing. I'm not knocking education, but you also you're not it takes a village. You understand what I'm saying? There's no I in team, so you can't do it by yourself. And a lot of us do want to do a lot of things by ourselves. So here's the thing, coming up to where we are now. Now, like I said, you and I met a couple of months ago at a real estate club. Now, my question is, what made you decide to go to that particular club or just go to any club and get the information? And the club that you went to, did it help or were you still searching?
It definitely helped. 100%. Number one, I found you, I think, in the second meeting. So it definitely helped. And even the people I met during the club, they still keep in touch with me. So it definitely helped. I would say the reason why I did that is because my strategic goals. My strategic goal was what was okay. I created three reasons why I wanted to get into the industry beyond, just for myself, for the betterment of, passing it down to others. Is I really wanted to build a network of great real estate minds that could all connect to one. Like basically, who's that one person that, hey, let me contact Ken, and Ken could tell me, okay, this person in New York who's doing this, or Ken could tell me this person that's in St. Paul, Minnesota, that's doing this. And so just kind of having that large network, and that it is very much kind of similar to kind of my previous background, which goes to the commodities. I had to have a large network, global network. I had to have people that was based in Africa, had to be people based in Dubai, had to have people based in Europe. So I had people based all over the United States, Canada, and I had to really make sure that network was pieced together because you never know. All it takes is one deal to really to strike. And even if it's not a deal, for the most part, just sometimes networking, communicating, we kind of all have an idea of what we're trying to do. It creates an opportunity in time. So for me, it was all about the idea of just networking and building. What my primary goal was to be that global intermediary. Very similar to what you do, Thomas. I mean, what you're doing already is kind of is just like that. But I mean, I'm obviously following your path, obviously.
I'll pay you later for all that, okay? Now, I want to step back just one further. Here's the thing that's I know a lot of people are going to wrestle with. Now, you saying at this moment you're making anywhere between, let's say, 1.5 to 200K annually on your corporate job. Okay. Now, I know a lot of people are going to question why would he want to walk away from something like that? You know what I'm saying? And get into something else that doesn't pertain that kind of money on a regular basis. Because when you're talking about doing real estate, it's more like commission based, if you will. It's not a salary versus commission or just a salary or anything like that. It's whenever the deal comes through. And a lot of times you might be at the threshold, but then the deal can go south. So I want you to kind of elaborate the difference between the corporate side of the money and the real estate side of the money, because you can build a nest egg with the corporate side of the money that you have now. So I know you and I spoken about building a nest egg on the real estate side. So kind of elaborate on that for me real quick.
Definitely. Well, the real estate side is still fairly new, so I can't really speak too much into that. And I'm not leaving my corporate job. Just to tell you guys the truth, I'm not leaving it. I'm not planning on leaving it. And when I do, it's because the real estate side have just completely taken off, and I don't have to be at the corporate job anymore. But as far as corporate nest egg, I mean, it's very straightforward. A corporate nest egg is because automatically they give you a 401k. Depending on what company you work for, they might match it. For my company, they match it up to like 14, 15%. Of course, some companies give bonuses. Some companies give pensions. My company actually has a pensions. So a lot of things, there's a lot of benefits to being in a specific company, especially some of these, major conglomerate, international conglomerate companies that are like massive. It's some real benefits to being there as a worker. I mean, I've talked to many people that have retired at these jobs. They've done, there's plenty of people I talk to at the company I'm with now that after 25 years, they're looking at their pension, seeing, okay, how this year look? And if they see like, okay, this is a good year, they're out. They're not willing to risk losing 200, 300,000, especially if they have maybe 3.5 or $4 million. And so for the most part, everyone's very, when you're in the when you're in the corporate world, especially, when you get to the level I've gotten to, there's a big way you can kind of create that nest egg to really support yourself. I mean, especially if you read the book, because I was reading the book today, The Richest Man in Babylon, and the big thing it talks to the big thing it talks about is the ability to save that money, save your money, save your coins. And so you definitely want to save, 10%. You want to definitely, because debt is ultimately the cancer for all of us. I mean, even me, for as much as I made because I lived in DC, I ended up getting myself into debt to survive DC, and I haven't quite fully recovered yet. But we all come through those obstacles, and so that's kind of how I dealt with that nest egg. As far as real estate, I'm going to be honest with you, Thomas. I'm going to lean on you for that one because I haven't created that yet.
All right, so we're gonna stop right there, take our next break, and we're gonna come back more, and we're gonna elaborate a little bit more on Mr. Kenneth here and talk about further things. Thank you for listening to The Real Men of Real Estate, hosted by me, Thomas F. Chappell Jr. We'll be right back.